depending on where you are with money, maybe you're one of those people that you just, it comes by you naturally to just sit down and do, all of your financial stuff together at one time on a regular basis. But others of you listening might be more like me, where you really need a little nudge, right? You need to have it built into your schedule. You need to have a clear list of the things that you need to do during that time. Otherwise, it's just kind of meaningless. Welcome to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald, interior designer, mama, and CEO of a thriving interior design business built on authentic word-of-mouth referrals. It wasn't that long ago that I stepped away from my corporate architecture job to build my own dream, one that would allow me more time with the people that I love, the ability to serve my clients at the highest level, and to make a great living. It wasn't always easy, and I've made my share of mistakes along the way. Fast forward to today, and I've learned a thing or two. This podcast is for you, the inspired, creative, ambitious, and let's admit it, occasionally overwhelmed interior designer who shares this dream of transforming lives by transforming homes. Join me and my guest each week as we walk through practical ways to build an interior design business you love and helps you transform your clients' lives. You can do this. Thank you for letting me spend part of this day with you. Let's get to it. All right. Hello there, and welcome back to the Designer's Oasis podcast. Today is a solo episode, and I am here. We're continuing our series on financial literacy for the month of April. And so we've had some wonderful guests and conversations, and I thought I would just take the opportunity to spend kind of sharing with you a couple of my own money habits that I've had to build over the last decade in order to help keep myself organized and accountable and stay up to date on where everything is. And I just want to say that I recently finished the book, oh my gosh, I'm spacing the name, Power of Habit. What is it? Oh my gosh, I'll link to it. I actually have a couple of books I'm going to link to. But the habits are, just like muscles, and it's something that you have to sort of be intentional about and put on the calendar. If you're anything like me, if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to happen. So, if depending on where you are with money, maybe you're one of those people that you just, it comes by you naturally to just sit down and do, all of your financial stuff together at one time on a regular basis. But others of you listening might be more like me, where you really need a little nudge, right? You need to have it built into your schedule. You need to have a clear list of the things that you need to do during that time. Otherwise, it's just kind of meaningless. And so, I want you to take today what works for you and leave the rest, right? I want you to think about what kind of rhythms and routines are going to make sense for you and your lifestyle. But most importantly, just make it a point to build in a financial routine for yourself, because I think the value of putting these habits into place far outweighs the discomfort that you might feel, initially sitting down to handle these things. It's not the most glamorous part of the work that we do, but it's what keeps the lights on. It's what keeps us going. It's what keeps us motivated, right? You're going to feel good when you know that you're making money, or at least that you've got a roadmap to get there. And so I hope that today is just kind of one of those more practical episodes where you can take away some good ideas and get yourself organized so that, when it comes down to have these like money dates with yourself, that it's a no-brainer. You just sit down and you do it and you get it done, and then you can move on to the fun stuff, right? Okay, so let's dive into it. And I've actually already hinted to one of my most impactful money habits, which is ritualizing this time. So making it a regular recurring part of your week, same day, same time, every single week. So for a long time, I had maybe this is a really dumb reason to do it on Fridays, but it was for alliteration's sake, Finance Friday. And previously I had done it on Mondays, and then I didn't have time on Mondays. It doesn't matter what freaking day of the week it is. Just make it the same time, same day every week. I've actually gone back to doing this work on Mondays because what was happening is by the time Friday rolled around, I was just tired and I was wiped, and I was like, whatever, I don't care. I don't want to sit down and deal with, looking at all the numbers and figuring things out. And that didn't work for me. So what's that phrase? Swallow the frog, eat the frog, which is a terrible metaphor. But the idea is that you do the thing that you don't want to do first and get it out of the way so that you can move on to the other stuff. So for me, it's Mondays, Money Monday, and it's the same time, same day. And it depends on the week, what kind of things I'm doing. So, it's I'll get to that because I'll get to the details of how I structure that time. But the first idea is to make it a ritual, same time, same day, every single week. Okay. And the other thing that I do in terms of ritualizing this, there is a little bit of not ceremony in like the sense of like lighting candles and doing, although I might, it's ceremonious in the sense that it's like, you know what, you deserve this time, to sit down and just kind of let's see where everything is, right? So I drop my kids off at school, and then I go to Starbucks and I get my favorite Starbucks drink. I do come and I sit down and I have, I am a meditator. It's something that helps me keep my head on straight. And so I'll have a little meditation, but if it's a money day, I'll typically sort of turn my focus towards that and have positive affirmations. But I just set the tone for just being really tuned into money. And I actually was talking to someone recently who was talking about this concept that, money without you is just a piece of paper. You give the money energy, not the other way around. Money doesn't give you energy, you give it energy. And so however, whatever you need to do to sort of ritualize this routine, rituals actually help your habits become stronger. There's a mind-body connection with ritualizing anything, whether it's a bedtime routine, whether it's a dinner routine or a bath routine. Anytime you can do things to ritualize that moment, and it doesn't have to be extravagant, but it helps to make the habit stronger. It tells your mind like, okay, this is what we're doing now. So I can sit down and like, okay, we're going to figure out what needs to be done in terms of the financials for this week, month, day, whatever. Okay. So ritualize your money routine is my first habit. Number 2 is very practical. And this is something that you will want to do once, but then check in on it, ever so often. But that's getting yourself paid on auto pay now. So if you are just starting out your business, it is never too soon to start paying yourself first. Okay. The dollar amount can change. If all you're paying yourself is $20, obviously I'd like for it to be more. But if that's all you can spare right now as you're just getting started, then do it, because it's starting to build that habit, and you can expect that to happen on a recurring schedule. You want to make a habit of coming back and increasing that over time as you start to have a pipeline of projects and you have recurring revenue that you can count on, or stream of revenue that you can count on. But getting yourself put on auto pay is really, really important. Whether that's weekly or biweekly or monthly, and how much is totally up to you. But don't let yourself fall into this habit of just paying yourself sporadically whenever you get a client. And I think you'll just find that the habit is a good one to start with, even when you're just getting started, and then increasing your pay as you can over time. So get yourself set up on auto pay, and eventually you may find yourself on payroll, which is kind of another level of your business that you can move towards. And so obviously then it definitely is on auto pay, but even before you get there, just make it a transfer from your business bank account to your personal bank account. And so this isn't part of my like 7 habits, but I'm just going to mention it while we're talking about it. The very, very, very first thing you need to do is make sure that you've got your own business checking account accounts, which actually goes to my 3rd habit, separate from your personal money. You definitely want to keep those things separate as soon as possible. Okay, so setting yourself up on auto pay and then checking that regularly and increasing it regularly is habit number 2. All right, so that was a nice segue into habit number 3, which is to keep your money siloed. So siloed, what I mean by that is, and this is going to be really, really, really beneficial and important for those of you who are doing full service design and you're doing purchasing on behalf of your clients. So if you just have one checking account, you can think of that checking account and the money that flows into it like water, and you can't separate the water from your income versus client money, right? The money that your clients give you to pay for a product. And so if you only have one checking account, all that money goes into a big pot, and it becomes considerably more difficult for you to be able to look at the numbers in there, the money in there, and understand how much of that belongs to the business versus how much of that belongs to your clients. So what I suggest here, and this is a sort of a spin off of Profit First, which is a book by Mike Michalowicz. I'll link to that book as well in the show notes. Very impactful book for me and my business. But he proposes having like 7 different accounts. And for me, that's just overkill. It wasn't working for me. So I have 3, 2 checking accounts and a savings account. But at the very, very least, I think that's what you need. So checking account number 1. So when I say siloed, you can just think of money moving in 2 different columns, moving in and out, and they don't really, for the most part, money doesn't flow in between those 2 accounts. So column number 1 or silo number 1, you can think of that as your operating expenses, money in and money out. So the money into that silo would be money that you receive for your services. So whenever a client pays you for a consultation or your services to design a project, or whether you're sending out invoices for hourly work, however you get paid for your services, that's where that money comes in. And that is the money that you use to pay yourself and to operate the business, to pay for your software, to pay for your office supplies, so on and so forth. You get the idea. So, and then there's a credit card. I think that using a credit card is important because it provides you protection, purchasing protection. This is assuming that you're paying it off every single month. But also there are really great credit cards out there that give you cash back. And so if you're not using a credit card for those purchases, you can really miss out on some cash back opportunities, or to pay for travel or whatever the case may be. So there is a checking account for operating expenses, or OpEx. All of the money into that silo, into that account, is for services, and all of the money out that goes on that. There's a credit card related to that account. So any purchasing done for the business, anytime you pay for software, for a membership, for education, for travel to High Point, that money goes on that credit card that is tied to your OpEx checking account. And every single month, you pay off that credit card with the money that's in your OpEx checking account. Okay. The other silo is your, what I call, client trust account. This is, again, a checking account and a related credit card. And the other thing that makes this really helpful is that your bookkeeper will always know that if there's a purchase, let's say on, let's just say Amazon, and it's on one credit card versus another, they'll know, oh, that was a cost of goods sold because it was on their, I feel like I'm saying this too early in the conversation. Let me explain the silo real quick. So the silo for the trust account is that's a checking account that all of your clients' money goes into. So if they pay you for a product, all of your purchasing for them goes on that credit card that gets paid out of that account. So you've got your credit card associated with your trust account and a checking account where that money is held. And so it's visually separate when you log into your checking account, or excuse me, when you log into your bank website, you can see how much money is on each credit card and in each account and keep track of your money that way. But the point is, you keep all of the client's money separate, including shipping and all of that. And then that credit card gets paid each month out of that checking account. Okay, so that's it. But my point is, if there's a charge to Amazon on that credit card, your bookkeeper is going to know, oh, that's a cost of goods sold because it's on that credit card versus, oh, that's office supplies because it came on the other credit card, which is associated with that account. So as long as you have that conversation with your bookkeeper, they should know. So you might be wondering, well, what about the money that we make, the markup that we make on the sale of products? Well, that is something that gets paid out to you on a regular basis. So typically it might be quarterly, maybe it might be, more or less than that, but quarterly is a good schedule to do it on. So let's say that you are working on a project and you know that you have earned a certain amount of money in markup for that product. You typically want to put some money aside for your income tax, which I'm going to get to that in just a second. But you can give yourself a bonus. And so you just need to make sure that you understand how much of that money would be considered your money for the taking, for the keeping, because you earned that income, and then you would move it into the appropriate account. So that's keeping your money siloed. And I cannot tell you how much brain damage I did over the years by not having that money separate. So the moment you separate that money, it'll make it much, much, much easier to understand how it flows and how it works. The third account that I have is a savings account. And this is where we regularly push money for income tax, not sales tax, because sales tax is related to product goods. And that again is siloed in the trust account because that's all related to purchasing there. So I hope that makes sense. But you're going to have to save money for your income tax. So that money goes into that savings account and you would pay that on a quarterly basis. Okay, so keep your money siloed. That is habit number 3. Hey designer, are you tired of wasting precious time with prospective clients who are not a right fit? Do you experience imposter syndrome because you know the back end of your business is kind of a hot mess? Perhaps you're experiencing growing pains and you don't have the tools, resources, or team to support you. I get it. I've been there. As an ambitious interior design business owner myself, I know the roller coaster ride this can be. Over the years, I've learned a thing or two about running a profitable word-of-mouth design business, and I want to help you find success too. How would it feel to wake up and face the day knowing exactly what to focus on next, having a roster of enthusiastic clients, including a paid waitlist, and having the space, time, and creative energy to develop projects that you are proud of and are portfolio, if not press-worthy? I want to invite you to learn more about the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint, a business coaching program designed exclusively for interior designers who want to serve their clients at the highest level while making good money, but without the burnout and overwhelm. If you're ready to get off the roller coaster, you don't have to do it alone. Join me inside the Interior Designer's Business Blueprint and get the tools, teaching, and community you need to pave the way for an interior design business your clients love and you are proud of. To learn more, grab the link on your audio player or head to designersoasis.com/blueprint. That's designersoasis.com/blueprint. Habit number 4 is having recurring money focused days. So I've talked about this before, how I batch my week and I batch the kinds of work that I do on certain days. And so I mentioned it earlier, how I do my financial related work typically on Mondays. But there's this whole little system that I have. You can definitely borrow this idea, but you can also tweak it to make it your own, using whatever tools you use. I'm a big Google Docs person and I use Asana too. So what happens is on my calendar, in Google, you can attach a document to a Google event. So if Money Monday is on my calendar, then I can open that calendar event and there's a Google Doc attached to it. And that's my list of my checklist of like things I need to go through. And there's weekly, monthly, and quarterly, and should be annual stuff on that list too, but weekly, monthly, and quarterly recurring things that I know have to be done, as well as those one-off things. So the reason why this is super helpful is, imagine you get an invoice from, let's say, your receiving company, and they need to get paid. I do not drop what I'm doing and go pay that invoice right then and there. That is a huge waste of time, to not just with money, just with anything, just to, handle all of your affairs as they come in. I think it's much more efficient for you to once a week just flag those things that need to be handled related to your money, and then do them all at once. So any invoices that need to get paid, I'll sit down and take care of all of that at the same time. Here are some examples. So I have the event on my calendar, and on that calendar event, there's a Google Doc, and that's always, always, always there. Think of it as a running list, and there's on that Google Doc are recurring tasks, so checklist, and there's weekly, monthly, and quarterly tasks that need to happen. And as I'm saying this out loud, I'm realizing mine needs to be updated a little bit because some things have shifted. There's some stuff on there that is no longer relevant and some stuff that needs to be added that is relevant. So keep thinking of it as this live document that's going to evolve and change over time, and just keep it up to date. But it's a super simple way. You always know where to find it. Okay. So some examples of some weekly activities that might happen on these financial days, money days, really looking at money in and money out. So money in might be following up on any unpaid invoices. Let's say you sent a client their invoices last week, and one of them, still isn't paid. Best case scenario is you already have an automatic email that goes out to your clients after a certain number of days that nudges them, that says, hey, just a reminder, we need to get this invoice paid. So that would be a really good automatic thing that you could set up. Like, that would be a really impactful thing for you to do, is make sure that you've got some auto reminders going out. But it's a good idea to just check in on those invoices and make sure that they have been paid, and to mark them as paid wherever you need to. It might be checking your checking accounts and just seeing where everything stands, checking your bill statements, converting proposals to invoices. I'll be honest, I don't do that on a weekly basis. It's more like a monthly basis, but and then looking at money out. So, paying bills. I probably get an invoice or a bill once a day for different random things. And I would spend all my time handling bills if I let myself. And so it's much easier for me to just sit down and handle it all at once. And I've got my little list going as well. Okay, so money in, money out, following up on unpaid invoices, paying bills, moving money. So if you need to transfer money, an example of that is why you would want to do this. So I use Ivy or House Pro at the moment for my project management system. And so if a client pays a retainer for product, um, because they're also paying services on that, I can't tell House or Ivy which I can only set it up on one checking account. So that money automatically for products goes into my operating expenses account. So I just have to transfer that. And there's no automatic way to do it. It's a manual task. So that might be an example of something else that happens, is just transferring money. Okay. Monthly tasks, again, invoicing clients. So I am a big uh, advocate for hybrid billing, so flat fee for design and hourly for implementation. And so any clients that are in that implementation phase would be getting a monthly invoice for services. And so we just put those invoices together and send them out. Reviewing your income statements and reviewing your bank statements. And this would be the same day each month. So for me, this is first Monday of each month would be these tasks. Okay, next, some quarterly examples would be meeting with my bookkeeper and just seeing, going over some things with them, converting proposals to invoices. So typically you would create proposals that your clients approve, and they pay a retainer for product. And then that money or that proposal would get converted to an invoice once you would determine the best point in which to convert that, whether it's when it gets installed in the client's house or whether it's when the product ships. And I have decided that we changed it around a little bit. It used to be when it gets installed into the client's house. But the problem with that, with the lead times, would be, well, that's great, but then all of a sudden, you're getting this like huge boost of income once a year, like when you do this big install, right? And so then it can sort of be hard to know how much money you need to be setting aside for income tax purposes, right? Okay, I know this because I made this mistake the hard way. It's like, whoopsie daisies, we needed to add a little bit more money there, right? I'm human, it happens. So what we do now is, instead of converting those proposals to invoices when the products get installed, we convert those invoices to proposals when the items ship. It can be a little tricky because not everything ships at the same time, but work with your bookkeeper. They're really, really helpful in helping you figure out a system that can work for you. Oh, and paying taxes. Typically, what happens is you collect your sales tax from your clients and you hold that money and for a quarter until you remit it to the state. And so work with your bookkeeper to understand how much money you would need to remit to the state and local level. It's different for everybody, depending on where you are, but you would get those paid quarterly. And then the other thing that you would do quarterly for yourself is move, if not more often, would be to also move money to a savings account, or paid to the IRS, your federal and state income tax. If you're already on payroll, then this wouldn't apply to you. So paying taxes, just dealing with all the tax related stuff, doing that quarterly is also on the recurring list. Okay, let's move on. The other habit that I have developed is I have a shared Google Doc with my bookkeeper. Inevitably, especially when handling clients' money, there are times when I just don't have an answer to how to handle something. Maybe it's something that had to be returned, or there was a damage, or whatever the case may be, and I'm just not sure how to account for it in my software. In this case, House / Ivy. So this list of questions for my accountant means I'm not perpetually dinging her with questions throughout the month. Instead, I keep this Google Doc where I can keep my list of questions, and then whether that's weekly or monthly or quarterly, I can send her that Google Doc and she can put responses right there in the doc, which not only helps keep an account, keep a record of her answers so that when I forget, I don't have to ask her the same question again. I can go back and look at my document. But that running list of questions on a Google Doc is just so simple, but it gives me a container, a place to put my questions that I can ask her on a regular basis. Because if I wait for that quarterly meeting, I'm going to have questions that come up in the meantime, and I'm going to forget what they are by the time I meet with her. Obviously, if there's a timely question, hopefully you're working with somebody who welcomes those questions and it's not a big deal to send them a question. But I find that 9 times out of 10, the questions are something that I can save for our meeting. And so as long as I have a place where I can put those questions, I know I won't forget them when it comes time to sit down and chat with her. And having it written down is helpful to reflect back on her answers. So ask your bookkeeper if they're open to sharing a Google Doc with you, or you can keep your running list of questions going. Okay, and let's move on to number 6, which is to audit your projects. So auditing your projects is the act of, I want you to be looking at your financial big picture as a business, right? But I also want you to audit your projects and understand how how profitable you are at the project level. Because not every project is going to be equally as profitable, and you might discover some things when you start to do this. So auditing a project is the act of simply understanding what the total income was for that project. So not only services, but also product, if that was part of the scope of work, if you're doing purchasing for them, and then accounting for all of the expenses, not only in terms of time, so how much time you spent on the project, but also expenses. So whether that was cost of goods sold, whether that was client gifts, whether that was covering and paying for something that maybe was a mistake on your end, whether it was meals that you paid for related to, let's say an install day or whatever the case may be. But you've got all of your literal expenses, but you've also got all of your time accounted for that you spent on that project. So auditing your projects is not just a reflection of the money, but it's also a reflection of the time. So if you set out on a project and you estimated 100 hours dedicated to the project. Maybe that's just you. Maybe that's 100 hours split between you and a team member. You're going to be tracking your time, right? You're using a time tracking tool. Harvest is my go-to tool, and I'll link to that as well. But because you're tracking your time, you can go back and you can see exactly how many hours you spent on the project. Did you meet your goal? Ideally, you're tracking this as you progress through the project, not just retrospectively, but it's something you're actively looking at. That would actually be a really good thing to do every Monday, or whatever your money date was with yourself. How are we tracking on projects? Are we on point? Are we going over on hours? Are we targeted to be, on track for our hours? Because if you send out a proposal to a client that has even if it's a flat fee, but behind that flat fee number, you've done your back of the napkin math and you've figured out this project is going to take 100 hours, but ultimately it ended up taking you 120, 150, 200 hours, right? By auditing your projects, you can get a real sense of where you're landing, right? If you're on target, great. You're doing a good job because you can clearly calculate how much time a project will take. You need to be doing this regardless of how you charge for a project, whether it's flat fee, hybrid, or hourly. But the other thing you can do is you can start to see what projects are more profitable. What are the projects that light you up? And so if you're starting to see like, well, I'm just as profitable with design-only projects or with virtual design projects as I am with full service. And I don't love full service because it's hard and it's long and I'd rather not do it. Then maybe that's a point where you can say to yourself, I don't think I'm going to do full service anymore. But also it might be that you look at these numbers and you're like, wow, we make a ton of money on these full service projects, and we're getting our systems down and we're making it work. And I've got help doing the ordering and procurement and tracking and the management of all of that. It's really, really worth it to me to do full service projects. You can make those kinds of decisions as a business owner when you've got some data and some numbers to back it up. And so this is why auditing projects is so, so, so important. So you got to understand the total income for the project and the total time and expenses related to that. Now, inside the Interior Designers Business Blueprint program, I do have a tool for designers to help you audit your projects, whether you're doing purchasing or not. And so that is a tool that is available. Okay. And then the last one, this last habit is a really, really simple one, but it's so helpful. And that is employing email tags to emails that come in. And this is just one of those like little tips, right? It's just a little tip. So I use Gmail, but most email service providers have some sort of a tagging feature. And so I have 3 tags that if an email comes in and let's say it's an invoice that needs to be paid and it comes in on a Tuesday and I'm like, I'm not paying this right now. I'm saving this for whatever day I do my money work. It gets a tag that says needs to be paid. So that Friday or that Monday or whatever day that I sit down to do my work, I can open up all of the emails that have that tag needs to be paid and go through them. And I can take care of the payments that way. And then when I'm done, I just use another email tag that says paid. And that way, I not only have the receipt of it, but it just clears them out. It clears it out of the queue. So that's how I keep track of invoices and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So using those email tags is really important. All right. So that is it. Let's just go through those one more time. So habit number 1, make a date with yourself, same day, same time to do your financial business, take care of your financial affairs, and ritualize it. Whatever it is that you need to do to make that moment deepen the habit, to make it stronger, whether that's lighting a candle, getting yourself a fancy coffee, saying some affirmations, just do it, make it special, and get it done so that you can move on to the fun stuff. And number 2, getting yourself paid on auto pay as fast as possible, no matter what the amount of money is, knowing you can change it over time. Number 3, keeping your money siloed. Separate your business operations expenses from your client money. Number 4, using a Google Doc to keep a running list of questions. That way you never forget your questions when it comes time to ask your accountant how to handle something. Number 6, auditing your projects, understanding how much income and revenue you received from for each project, as well as the time spent on the project and the expenses related to it, so that you can get a clear understanding of your bottom line at the project level. And that's going to help you make data-driven decisions for your business. And then my favorite little easy one, email tags. Just keep yourself organized. Don't feel like you have to drop what you're doing. If you're having this like really great creative day set aside where you're about to go like work on a new scheme for a new project, yay, don't lose that momentum. Just put a tag on that email. Know that you're going to come back to it on your money day. And that makes it so easy just to pull up those emails for whatever needs to be paid and knock it out when the time is right. All right. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you find some of these habits to be useful. The most important thing is just understand the power of habit and the power of creating really strong habits for yourself, financial habits in your business, so that you can keep the ball rolling, right? Keep your business healthy so that you can be around for a really long time. You can continue to help your clients. All right, that's all I have for today. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now. Thank you so much for letting me spend part of this day with you. If you're loving this podcast, please share it with a friend who you think might also love it. Or perhaps you can take just 30 seconds to open your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. And if you have just an extra minute, go ahead and leave a review. This helps me so much, and it helps other designers like you to find the podcast. It also adds fuel to my motivation to keep making great episodes just for you. However you choose to help, please know I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.